Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here for another daily movie review, and spooky season rolls on. Today we're going to be talking about House on Haunted Hill from 1999. The film is directed by William Malone, written by Rob White and Dick Beebe. It stars Jeffrey Rush, Famke Johnson, Taye Diggs, Peter Gallagher, Chris Kattan, Ollie Larder, and others. The plot synopsis is: an amusement park mogul offers a group of diverse people $1 million to spend the night in a haunted house with a horrifying past. So this came to my attention through a comment on my review for The Haunting. Past and future guest Dan Prophet. If you followed along with Zoobox Goes to the Movies, he's been on like 3 or 4 times. I always have a great time. Some great episodes. You should go check those out. He described The Haunting as Deep Impact and House on Haunted Hill as Armageddon. In the sense of like that they're kind of a pairing, right? They came out around the same time. This came out a few months after The Haunting in 1999. And I had seen this a long time ago. I couldn't really remember much about it, to be honest with you. I guess I just didn't either find it very memorable, or it's just one of those movies that kind of got lost in the shuffle, from the late 90s to early 2000s. There was just a ton of studio movies like this. Warner Brothers, they were putting out movies like this all the time. There was House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts, House of Wax, Ghost Ship, Fear.com with Steven Dorff, one of those early Ghost in the Internet movies, kind of like what we would have. The modern equivalent would be like Unfriended, Host, Unfriended Dark Web, something like that. But yeah, it was kind of one of those. Very slickly produced, very extravagant sets. This movie has a little bit of an edge, I think, on a lot of those, because by design, even in the plot, they kind of acknowledge this notion that you are going on you're going to walk through a haunted house, like you would at like Universal or something like that, like a theme park ride. One of the main characters is Jeffrey Rush. Stephen Price, a nod to Vincent Price, star of the original film. And he's kind of a spooky amusement park guy. That's what he does for a living. He creates them. And then he's got this apathetic, bored wife that he tries to thrill and chill every year, trying to make her happy on her birthday. So he concocts this idea of going to this old asylum, and he goes in and they build basically a haunted house ride. And it's got all sorts of twists and turns. And in that sense, it actually has, like I said, a leg up over everything, because it acknowledges what you're watching and what you're doing while watching. So on a meta level, it makes sense. It's self-aware. It's not trying to be something that it's not. This is not about some sort of like deep, meaningful experience. Like you could say The Haunting is trying to be a much more like serious take on the haunted house. Much more like melodramatic. This is much more like I don't know, for lack of a better way to put it, like an action thriller. In the way it's constructed, it's actually doesn't even really have a ton of like super violent kills and crazy shit like that. It doesn't even have a lot of that. It's actually much more just about the atmosphere and the ambiance and the house, and then discovering why, in fact, all of them ended up at the house in some sort of weird paranormal reasons, right? And the movie's got a lot of cool twists and turns. In fact, I wish that it had played more into the twists and turns. It seems pretty early on, after about, I would say, a half hour, it kind of starts becoming more overtly paranormal. It does play with it a little bit, though, because you never know if what you're seeing is actually a paranormal, or is this part of the construct of Stephen Price? Did he create this to be like this? Because they kind of show him in his introduction to be a guy that is willing to do really crazy shit, or to make people think that they're about to die to scare them, right? There's a roller coaster in the beginning of the movie, and part of the ride is actually to think that the rails are broken and that you're about to die. So they kind of set the scene for that. They plant those seeds very early on in the movie. So you're never really sure 100% if what you're watching is real or not. And it does a pretty good job of like kind of balancing that out, I would say, up until the last like 25 minutes of the movie, where it becomes like an overtly paranormal, this house is haunted, We're being attacked by ghosts. We're trying to run out of the building. In fact, I would say most of like the deaths in the movie all happen in the last 15 minutes. It's kind of, it's just kind of, it's kind of wild in that way. So they keep you guessing for a little while, and I did appreciate that. It's a very well paced movie. I mean, it's 90 minutes, and it jams a lot in there. A lot of what you would expect it to as well. I would not say it's like super original or thought provoking in the way that it's made, but it definitely maintains your attention and is entertaining. I'll give it that. It entertains in a way that something like The Haunting falls very flat, because it has a lot of the same structure. You know, always in these movies, characters become detectives and they're like searching around, and of course there's a room full of old papers and files, and they're able to kind of discern what is really going on and why they're there, and you find out that they're all related to somebody that used to be in the asylum, and you're never really sure though what that means until the end of the movie, which I suppose makes sense. To be fair, it's got a very slick production as well. Like I said, it's a Warner Brothers movie. It's kind of decent budget. It's got a decent set. The look of the movie is very cool. It's very music video-esque in terms of like direction. They use this song. Is it Marilyn Manson's cover of "Sweet Dreams" is used in the movie, and it feels like very inspired almost by like the Beautiful People music video, other Marilyn Manson stuff. It has that kind of a vibe to it when it comes to like the ghosts. If you've ever seen the music video for A Beautiful People, you know what I'm talking about. Even the set design and the cinematography kind of looks like that. It's got this, it's a haunted house, but it's also has an industrial feel to it because it's, it used to be an asylum, so they're able to use a lot of like, rusty old hospital beds and tools and things like that in the movie. It really does. It reminds me of like kind of walking through a haunted house. That was a lot of sense memory of like going to some old haunted houses when I was younger as a teenager, and really like it really matched that feel. So there's a lot to appreciate with that stuff. Other things that I actually really liked about the movie, Jeffrey Rush. I'm actually kind of a fan of Jeffrey Rush. And one of the things I like so much about Jeffrey Rush is that he's kind of down to do anything. Like he'll do Oscar baity stuff like The King's Speech or Quills, but then he'll also do things like House on Haunted Hill and Mystery Men, or Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever. He seems like an actor that is just kind of down to go have fun. And he's definitely having fun in this movie. He is the one out of all of them, I would say, that kind of understands the tone of of the movie that he's in, which is something you see often with like these more seasoned veteran actors that come in and kind of slum it in a genre picture. They seem like they have a better handle on what they're trying to present to the audience, because everybody else, they were all kind of up and comers. Famke Johnson, even though she had been around for a while, she was more of a TV actress. I saw Famke Johnson for the first time probably in The Next Generation, Star Trek. She's in a couple episodes of that. Like she's more straightforward. Ty Diggs is very straightforward. Ali Lauder is very straightforward. They were kind of up and coming people at the time, and they play this very straight, kind of like predictable in a certain sense. Chris Kattan, which you would think he would be there for like the overt comic relief, but he's actually plays it pretty straight. Most of the jokes in the movie actually emanate from Jeffrey Rush's interactions with other people, because he's such kind of a shrewd bastard. He's a lot of fun. If honestly, even if you wouldn't think that you would like this movie, if I were to recommend to watch it, it would be almost specifically for Jeffrey Rush's performance. Because while it does have a lot of fun twists and turns, it's you're going to be able to see what happens coming like kind of a mile away, especially if you have a sense of what it's doing and how it sets up everything that's going to happen. You can kind of call some stuff. I didn't remember actually the twists. Honestly, I didn't. From the past when I turned it on, but as I was watching, I was kind of expecting things to go the way they did. Honestly, I kind of wish that they had not gone the paranormal route and just had it become more of like a psychotic thriller, like with one of them being a psycho, whether it was, Jeffrey Rush himself trying to kill his wife or his wife trying to get back at him, because that's what you end up finding out is really kind of the impetus for coming here and what they're doing. Famke Johnson's like plotting to kill him and inherit all of his millions and billions of dollars. Successful amusement park guy. So I kind of wish it had leaned more into that and had just been that, instead of kind of going off the rails incoherently and just becoming a CGI mess. And it's from 1999. The Haunting has the same thing, where the ghost just is like this nebulous, floaty, obtuse shape. This one in The Haunting, it's gray, and in this movie it's black. It's like a black evil specter that's trying to say creepy things and seduce the characters, even though they're not seduced at all. Like, it would have, if you were gonna go that route, like make it mildly more subtle, that is what's going on, in terms of like what the ghost is trying to achieve from the characters. Because it's never really, it's just like, oh, it's the people that used to run the place, and they want to torture the people that were there. So the next best thing is to get their family members. And it ends very abruptly too. It's a very abrupt ending. Like, it all culminates in 5 minutes and then kind of just ends. It ends with a dumb joke. Yeah, that's like, that's my general opinion of the movie. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I think it's much more clever than maybe you might think it would be. Because of all the meta stuff and how it just kind of it is what it is. It wears its heart on its sleeve. Its ambitions are pretty meager, and largely it executes on them. You do have to kind of watch it with the mind of that it was made in 1999 for sure. This movie has had a critical reassessment over the past like 5 years though. I think there's a lot of people that are like my age and maybe a little bit older, probably closer to 40 than I am. I'm 34 now, by the way. So probably more like 38, 39 that have a reverence for these kind of movies that maybe people hadn't really had before because they grew up with it. It's part of their childhood zeitgeist, especially for genre people. It reminds me a lot of how younger people feel about the prequels, the Star Wars prequels. Like, the people that saw them when they were like 7, they generally have a lot more of an affinity for them than people that were a little bit older. Even somebody like myself. I saw episode 1 when I was 13. And while I didn't hate it or anything like that, I didn't know enough to hate it. I was just like, oh, cool, more Star Wars. It's not something that has stayed with me, I don't have like any really I don't know. I don't have any endearment to it. And I don't have an endearment to these movies either, to be honest with you. I don't know why. I was just maybe watching better movies at the time. This is the kind of movie that you would have run out and just saw it because it was in the theaters when you were a teenager. Just something to go to. I will say, though, all these WB movies, like this, Ghost Ship, 13 Ghosts, House of Wax, I believe they're all rated R, if I'm not mistaken. Which is not something that would happen today. Like, after this period, then you go into the mid-2000s, and then everything becomes PG-13. Because they did a bunch of remakes of stuff like The Hitcher. The remake of The Hitcher is PG-13. Stuff like that. That's what's coming. I don't know why, but that's coming to mind specifically. Because, they really do need teenagers to go see these movies. Like, does House on Haunted Hill need to be rated R? Not really. It's really more rated R because of like F-bombs, people saying fuck. That really seems to drive the rating more than the actual gore because it's pretty sparse on it. Maybe I'm just so desensitized, but I was just like, oh, well, it's not like, it's actually pretty tame. It feels very like, general audience friendly. So, I think they just maybe at some point the studios were like, well, let's try to get those teenage bucks. We're sick and tired of kids buying tickets for fucking Rat Race and then going to see our rated R haunted house movies. Yeah. So Not mad that I watched it at all. It was a good time. It's a good movie for this time of year. Better than you would think. Clever. Um, it does fall apart at the end. I'm not gonna lie, but I've seen a lot worse. I've watched a lot worse, and I think it is a really apt like parallel or analogy saying that saying that The Haunting is like Deep Impact and House on Haunted Hill is like Armageddon. That's a perfect like analogy for the dichotomy between the two movies. One is much more po-faced and serious. The other one's a little bit more like kind of populist and fun. So yeah, worth checking out if you can get a hold of a copy of it. I know it was re-released a couple years ago, or maybe a year ago or so, on Scream Factory. I ended up just watching. I actually rented it on Amazon, so you can watch it there. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, you want to keep up to date with everything Zoobox Nation, bunch of links in the description. Also, if you would like to make a recommendation for one of these movies, just like Mr. Prophet did, I will more than happy to check it out and give it a thorough watch and try to be as thoughtful as possible. It's hard though. I got to do these late at night, so sometimes I'm a little tired. But anyways, you have the best one ever.